So that's pretty much how search works. But now we're going to go to one that I'm very excited to show you. So when you go to custom here, I'm going to get myself a little smaller here. So when you go to custom here, what you're going to see is that you're going to have two options. You're going to have connect your apps, and then you're going to have to create new skills. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to connect a few apps that I really recommend you to use, just because I've been lately using 3 of them mainly. But you can connect a lot more, and you can really see a lot of things happening here. So the ones that normally I recommend people to connect are the Gmail, if you have a Gmail, Google Calendar, and if you are in a company that uses Slack, that's something that works a lot. So Slack is another great one. I should connect Slack. I don't personally, I have a Slack. I have groups in Slack, but I don't use it often. But I'm gonna try it this one. But if you work in an organization where they use Slack, one of my previous employers, they used to use Slack every day, and I used to use Slack often. So that to me is one that it's a good one to implement. A lot of people have Monday.com. I have Miro in here, right? So you can kind of go through a lot of apps, and I have Fireflies here connected, and really go and see if there's the app that you're working with, it's here. A lot of people might have Notion, right, or Figma, and that's something you can connect. So here's the beauty of connecting these things. So once you connect them, you click on them, it will take you to a login part of it, just to make sure that you have the right account. And once you have that, Claude will say, hey, was connected. And then when you come back to the connection, you will see a check mark. And that means that it's connected. It doesn't mean that it's connected for live. It means that sometimes it has happened to me where I'm using Gmail and I need to reconnect the thing. I need to disconnect it and connect again because it's not valid anymore. So that's a little bit with the app. So just before we go to the skill, I'm really going to show you this really quickly. So just for the sake of a little bit on saving time, I'm going to show you kind of already something that I already work with. So I'm going to go to the chats here. So once I plugged in my Gmail, right? So let's say here, and this is kind of how you can see it. I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm going to copy this prompt. So this is how I did this specifically. So you can copy me exactly what I did. So you go to the new chats, right? If you went to the connections and already connected to your Gmail account, your Google Drive or things like that, normally you're going to see your connectors here, or at least the top 3-4 connectors, you're going to see them here. And the great thing about that is that just think about it like a right or left. It doesn't mean like you can only use these ones. It just means that it will give you prompts, right, already that are pre-made, that it could be useful for you to utilize them. It doesn't mean that these are only connectors that you're going to use. So a lot of times you can be like, Claude, like check my email, right? And it will automatically go to your email because it already has the connections to your email. But sometimes you can come here and say like, hey, this is specifically really great when you just got your connectors. You can come here and just really start like reading what it can do. It doesn't mean that it can do everything. Like I tried to tell Claude to create sub-labels under my, in Gmail, you can generally speaking have labels that you can organize your emails with. And then sometimes you have sub-labels. And I asked him like, hey, can you create those things? And he was not able to create those things. He would tell me like, hey, I don't have access to create those things. I cannot do that, but I can do this instead. Or he will tell you, but this is how you create a label, or this is how you create the filter. So even though sometimes he's not capable of doing everything, it will try to still help you as much as it can with what you're asking it to do. So I thought that was very helpful. But whenever I click here, it kind of gave me one of these pre-made prompts, right? I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Tell me how I optimize my inbox. So I think I kind of asked it something like that, because it was like, hey, Claude, could you show me a tricks on how can I help me manage email? Yeah, so it was kind of like that, right? Use my connector that would be helpful to get started once you have gathered info. If it makes sense, create something we can look at together, like a visual checklist or something interactive. So whenever you click on these things, so that was pretty much the prompt that I utilized, and I didn't create that. It was just here, and I got one of these main ones. So you can say like whenever I do that, it automatically creates a very nice prompt for me. So that's pretty much what I did, right? So I kind of got one of these ones, and this is the good thing. That's just a conversation starter. Once I did that, it kind of gave me an overview of all the emails I got You can see 85,000 emails. I have not read more than 201 emails, right? There's a lot of promotions and things like that. It kind of gave me a whole thing of, what I could do, what I cannot do, maybe like something maybe I'm subscribed to. So all these things giving me that. So for instance, here is where I tested if it was able to turn off the notifications, but it can't. I feel like it can do if I don't go through my Gmail connector, but instead I go through my calendar connector. Then you can turn off the notification. So it's just a matter of which connector you're gonna use it for, right? So but I feel like if I go to my calendar, my Google app connector, then I'll be able to disconnect those notifications, because it's true. I just notifications, they like get like 8 a day. Then I ask it, hey, here's can you create a sub label with projects here? And it was like, yeah, I'm not able to connect this. I'm not able to do this, right? But this is how you create a sub label and all those things, which is great. So then is when I start kind of getting a little more granular into this. And I was like, okay, so this is a project I have, right? Can you give me a summary of the last emails on this specific project? And can you highlight important changes, updates, and upcoming actions? And this is awesome because here's where it was actually able to kind of tell me like, hey, here's the overview. It was able to go through my Gmail, read all like my last emails on this documentation. And it was like, yeah, in the past 48 hours, I got a lot of emails. And that's why I really needed to see if we could do this, because this is a project that it's a little complex and there's a lot of moving parts happening at all times. And it's hard for me to keep reading these emails just because you get a lot of emails from all these consultants and they're long emails, and I'm just like, I don't want to read this. So it's great because then here you can just think about this as a project manager. You come here and you can connect your Gmail and say, hey, give me a summary of what's happening this week, or what projects are happening this week, or for this specific project, give me a summary and what are the next actions I can take. And it gives you a full summary here, right? Like give me like project overview, right? It gives me the key updates on the last 48 hours with civil, right? For landscape architects, like what is he doing? There's some pull additions, right? Open actions, right? Here's what we need to do, right? Then I was like, this is great. This is a cool overview, and that's great. But then is when I ask it. And that's the thing. Whenever you guys are doing this, just think about it like the first question is just like a starter, right? Like you can leverage the LLM to strategize so much more. So that's why whenever you have a question or you want to do something, just think about it like, how can I leverage that? Now that I have this information from the LLM, okay, how can I get deeper for me to leverage this even more? So another one here would be, great. So I was like, great. So help me, because if you think about it here, it strategizes all these things, right? Like it was like, well, you have this and that and that. And I was like, okay, great. Go back to my emails and my name, my name is Danny, but I was like, just to kind of specify, I was like, hey, Danny, help Danny strategize that what he needs to be working on how to best serve his team to move project forward. Feel free to go through more emails on the Stengl's project to make sure that you have all the information you need. So once I load that, he really went back through the email integration. You see how it says they use image integration, and it went to actually go through. I don't know if it went through all the project emails, but it went through more emails on that just to really make sure it was able to understand the context. And I think that's the main reason why you want to have the connections connected to an LLM or Claude in this case, just because you are able to give the AI more context. Like it was able to kind of go through my emails, and it was able to kind of get all my, strategize. It helped me strategize. So here's the main priorities, right? From the landscape architect, like he's like, he's waiting for this. Maybe you can kind of go and help him kind of getting this information from your ArchiCAD file. And I was like, great. He's kind of waiting that from another consultant, but maybe I can provide that information, right? And this one here is another critical, right? So I'm waiting from Christine, the interior designer, already sent me some updates. So I need to update my model to kind of look like that. So that's a priority this week. Maybe I can send site plans to Andrew, right? And it kind of gave me all these like tasks that I can do. And here are the priorities, just as a quick glance of what I can do. Here's actually asking me, hey, do you want me to help you checking with Paul about the core URL elevation. They want me to follow up with Andrew about the missing cat plan, right? And here it gives me even an overview of the strategic plan of this. So here's like, hey, I can help you with this. Like, if you want to, here's your strategic plan. Get those exterior elevations done, exterior markups done, right? And he even tells me how, right? Like, oh, the material zones, single roof, all these things. Get all the critical coordination bottleneck with Greg. Make sure you help him. Make sure you coordinate. This is something really cool. It gives me an insight saying like, hey, by the way, there's these 2 consultants. They haven't really responded to any emails. You might want to connect with them just to make sure that we have everything we need, right? Since the garage equipment too is still unresolved. So imagine how much value you get as a project manager where you're not, the AI is helping you to keep things on track and kind of help you see things that maybe you're not seeing at a time, because as a project manager, maybe you are managing like 7, 8, 9 projects, right? And you don't remember these things sometimes. To me, this is how I'm showing you how to use Claude or AI in general, generative AI, LLMs, is for me to show you use cases that you can actually apply to architecture and not just be another generic course that is just gonna give you like, yeah, this is how you use connectors. You just put it connected to your email and track some emails, right? Like, no, I'm actually showing you how I'm using it for architecture, for project management. For me, if I'm a BIM consultant, what is that I need to keep track of? So I hope you guys are finding value in this, because this is how you actually use it for architecture, right? Yeah. So I think your next exercise for you is to, one, make sure that you go to your privacy settings, make sure you're not sharing your data. That will be number 1, right? Just make sure you're not sharing the data, because now you're going to start connecting things to your Gmails, to your calendar, things like that are really going to 10x your productivity. But you always want to make sure you keep things private. That's number 1 thing. Number 2 things, you're going to go and connect the tools that you feel like you are using often, especially for your work or your personal life. Like, if you just want to test this and you're not sure you want to use it for your work, that's fine. You can still connect your Gmail of your personal account. You can maybe connect your personal Google Calendar. You can still connect other things that are maybe more personal rather than the firm's data, right? So what I would recommend you to really start seeing the power, just connect a few of the connectors. If you are still skeptical about this, maybe start just with your Google Calendar, right? Just start with your Google Calendar, just with something that is low risk. And then just go to the new chats, right? Let's say, for instance, you did the Google Calendar. So you just go here and start playing with this. I say start playing with this because this is just an icebreaker. Once you start testing it and you kind of start seeing what it can do with your calendar, then is when you start asking more questions. And then you start kind of getting like, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? And then you will understand what it can do and what it cannot do, and what other strategic recommendations it has for your calendar, for your life, for your Gmail. So that's something that I recommend you doing. Start testing those things. And the third thing will be to go deeper. Like, once you kind of get your first responses from the LLM, you start going deeper, start asking questions about like what it can do, what it cannot do. So you start getting a really quick grasp of how can you leverage it, because every company is different. Every person needs to utilize it in its own personal way. So that's the way I think you should start working on this. So with that being said, go ahead, pause this, make your first connection, and start using your first, and start using the first prompt, and start just going deeper into the tool. And I'll see you in the next one.